Hey BookTube, it was my BookTube anniversary this past week. Of course I was sick for it, but I figured I would put a video together just kind of going over my first year, what I read in general, and then kind of answering a few questions about how my first year went. I was gonna do a Q&A, but I only got one question, so I can't do a Q&A with only one question, can ya? So first, I figured I would talk about the statistic part of it. I'm really not gonna go too much into it, but I just kind of sat down and went over some different things. If you're kind of new to my channel or you're just wanting to learn more about it, here is going to be a breakdown of what I typically read, so it can kind of give you a little understanding of what I gravitate towards and what I've been reading. Okay, so let's dig into that. I wrote everything down in my little journal. I read a total of 66 books since my very first video until today. The very first book that I read was My Cousin Rachel by Daphne du Maurier, which is interesting. I talked about other books in individual reviews, but those were ones that I finished before I actually started my channel. For authors that I've read, I have read, this is counting the same author multiple times. So if I've picked up 3 books by Stephen King, I counted that as 3 male authors because each book was male, if that makes sense. So there were 36 that I picked up that were written by male authors, 25 written by female authors, and then 5 books that were written by multiple authors. And usually in those categories, there was a male and a female in there. So a little on the heavier side for males, but I mean, for the most part, it's kind of in the middle, especially if you add in that the multiple authors. For the format that I read books in, I read 42 physical books, and this also includes ebooks. So I read 42 books with my eyes, and I read 24 audiobooks. The audiobooks is surprising to me because before BookTube, I never really listened to audiobooks. I tried 1 or 2 of them and didn't 100% care for them. The only one I really enjoyed was Sleeping Giants, and that was it. I'm starting to love them more now that I'm reading more of them. Page breakdowns. So I did this in 3 different categories. I did under 250 pages, between 250 pages and 500 pages, and then one that was 500 pages or more. So for under 250, I read 26 books. Between 250 and 500 page books, I read 29. And for books that were more than 500 pages, I read 11 books. I definitely was more focused on reading short books more often than I normally do, but that midsection's usually, the 29 doesn't surprise me. That's pretty normal. For the audience that the books were going towards, 47 of them were adult books, 17 were young adult, and 2 were middle grade. So if that tells you anything about what I like to read, I definitely focus more on adult books than young adult, and I rarely pick up middle grade. And I think those middle grade books were for Vlogtober. So yeah. Speaking of Vlogtober, let's go into the genres. This really doesn't surprise me too much, especially considering I did Vlogtober. I had a lot of books to read, but it broke down into my most read genre is horror, and that was 30 books. So almost half the books that I read this past year were horror books. And then the next biggest category was fantasy, which I read 14 books. And then mystery / thriller, I put them together. I read 9 books. And then it gets into really small sections after that. For 3 books, I had general fiction, romance, and sci-fi. The next one, I read 2 poetry books. And then I read 1 classic, one nonfiction, and one contemporary. So yeah, don't read those very often. I also wanted to break down the format of the books. I read a total of 57 novels or novellas. I read 3 short story collections or poem collections. And then I read 6 comics or manga. And then with ratings, I did not have any 1-star ratings. And I'm pretty sure that's because if there's a book that I'm not enjoying, I'll DNF it. Actually, that's a really good statistic to bring up too. And I actually DNF'd 4 books this past year. And I'm looking at those 4 books, and one of them, I don't even know if I would actually call it a DNF, because I ended up actually finishing it on audiobook, and that was A Clash of Kings. So technically it's even 3 books that I've actually DNF'd where I stopped reading them and then didn't finish them at all. And one of those books I'm actually willing to pick up again, and that one is Endurance by Jack Kilborn. I was enjoying the book, but I didn't think it was going to meet the expectation that I had placed for it, or it was like competing with another book that I was planning on recommending, and it just wasn't meeting that same expectation I had for the other book, so I just went for that one. The other 2 that I had DNF'd though were To Wake the Dead by Richard Lehman and Universal Harvester by John Darnielle. Universal Harvester, I got through 3/4 of the way through that book, man. That one I know I won't finish. And then To Wake the Dead, I might try that one again. From what I understand, he is a well-known horror writer, but definitely old school. Those are books that you think I should try and read again, except Universal Harvester. It ain't happening. But the other ones, Endurance and To Wake the Dead, if they're ones that I should try again, or maybe just a different book by the same author, let me know down below. Anyway, back to the ratings. I rated 2 books 2 stars. One of them was A House at the Bottom of the Lake by Josh Malerman. I initially had it at 3 stars, but when I was going through my ratings, I realized I did not enjoy it that much. And the other one was You Were Never Really Here by Jonathan Ames. It was a very short book, gratefully, and that was about all that it had going for it. I did not enjoy that one at all. And then for 3 stars, I had 11 books that I rated 3 stars. I had 30 books rated as 4 stars and 23 books rated as 5 stars. And to give you like a little insight into how I rate books, I think I talked about this at the very beginning of my channel, but just to kind of reiterate it here since we're talking about ratings, I rate my books based off of my enjoyment of the book and the likelihood that I would pick up the book again. A 5-star book for me is a book that I really enjoyed and will definitely be reading again, or would be willing to read it again. A 4-star book it's a book I enjoyed. I enjoyed reading it, but I probably wouldn't read it again. Or maybe it was a 5-star book, but there was kind of a big issue that I had with it that made me not want to possibly read it again. A 3-star book is also one that I enjoyed it while I was reading it, but it's either not very memorable or it was just okay. It wasn't that same enjoyment that I would have had for a 4-star book, or maybe there were just a lot of issues to it that it just kind of kept on like irking me, like little side issues, but the main story I was kind of like, okay. So that's why those books kind of have the bigger numbers, because I rate it purely based off my enjoyment of it. I'm not rating it for the quality of the book by any means. If it's written poorly, yeah, I'm probably not going to rate it very high. It's not going to be enjoyable to read. But like I've seen a lot of people, they'll rate Legend of Drizzt as something lower because it's not that good of quality of book. And it's like, well, I'm enjoying my reading experience of the book. So that's just how I rate books. Just letting you know. If it's a 2-star, it means it was hard to get through it. Oddly enough, both of those books were under 100 pages. Both of them. And then I found the BookTube Birthday tag, so I figured that I would just kind of answer those questions as well and go from there. So first question is, how many years on BookTube are you celebrating? And it's number 1. The second question, what has kept you motivated to continue making videos? That's a really interesting question because sometimes it's hard, I'm not gonna lie. There's times where the creativity, and we'll get into this on a later question, but sometimes the creativity is really hard to think of a video that's gonna be engaging, but I really do enjoy talking about the books that I've read. I enjoy talking to people down in the comments, and I really enjoy talking to people on Twitter as well. So if you're a part of that Twitter community that likes to talk about books or just to talk, I'll leave my handle down below so that we can kind of talk. I don't do the drama stuff by any means. I don't like to get engaged in any of that. I just purely like to talk about the books. But that's really helped a lot, is the people who are also making content out there, just chatting with them and being able to talk about the books that, you know, I want to read or that I have read. It's nice to know that I can gush about the books that I'm really enjoying and not just keeping it to myself. Third question is, what are 3 of your favorite videos you've made in the past year and why? So I went through all my videos. While I think there are some that I did enjoy making, the ones that just really stood out to me were these 3. The first one is my family's favorite books and hometown tour, and I'll link that up above. This one was a favorite for me because it's kind of just a little insight into me, the environment I grew up in. You get to meet my family, get to see where I came from. And it was just a really fun video to make, to talk about books, because books are a pretty big part of my family and my dad's sense of humor. That was just really nice. It's also nice to have that video because I am on the other side of the country. At the time I made that video, I was living in California. I'm now living in South Carolina. And to have that video is just kind of nostalgic / sentimental to me because I can watch that and it's a permanent record for myself. So I personally enjoy it for that, but I just think it kind of adds a little insight into who I am. My other favorite video, and I've talked about this before, my other favorite video it was called A Ranty Read Along. And this is a book, I'll link it up here too. This is a video I was making of me reading through a book of a well-beloved author that I loved, that was like my inspiration into reading horror and just reading in general, R.L. Stine, and then reading a series that I remember loving when I was in high school, which is the Evil series, specifically the Evil Cheerleader series. So I found the first book at the library and I'm like, I just want to read through it and just kind of nitpick the book. And it was just so much fun to film that and to kind of tear into it a little bit, especially the first half. The first half of that book, it's rough. You know, you can tell that it's made for a younger audience in the first half, but the second half was the part that I remembered the most. And I go into that in my video, but that video was a lot of fun to record. It did not get a lot of views. I haven't checked it. I mean, I don't care. I remember that it was just a lot of fun to record that. So that's one of them. And then the last one, I'm going to cheat because I can. And that's going to be my Vlogtober series that I did in October. If you go through my videos, you'll see that Vlogtober is a large chunk of my videos. I would even dare say it's at least a third of my videos, if not more. So this has, I mean, it's a pretty big part of my channel was Vlogtober. If you haven't watched my Vlogtober my Vlogtober playlist that I put together, each video is 5 minutes or less, where I picked a different category every day and recommended my favorite book that fit into that subcategory. And like I said, I had to read a lot of books, and I wanted to make sure that the books I was recommending were actually books I enjoyed and not just purely to fill in that title. I didn't actually get to 31 videos. I think I got to like 26 or 27, but that was pretty close. It was a lot of reading. That's why I have 30 books. Some of those weren't read in October, but a good chunk of them were. I wasn't working at the time, so I had time to read. But I really enjoyed making those videos. It was nice to just have them be really short snippets, so I thought it was really easy to watch. I got the inspiration from watching Angry Video Game Nerd, The Monster Madness through Cinemassacre, not necessarily Angry Video Game Nerd's channel, where he would do 5-minute little videos of some favorite horror movies that he's watched. So that's where I got that inspiration from. I just love the concept of it. They're really easy to watch. Like I said, I think I made about 26 or 27 of them. So you could technically watch all of them within like an hour and a half. I really enjoyed that. I am very much thinking of doing something similar coming this October. It probably won't be a video every single day. I purely was able to do it every single day because I wasn't working, but I would really love to do something similar to highlight different horror genres or different horror authors, because that was just a lot of fun. It's obviously one of my favorite genres to read about. It was a lot of fun to do. So why not? Question 4 is, what have you struggled with on BookTube in the past year, and how did you overcome that struggle? Like I was saying earlier, one of my struggles was the creative juices. A lot of my videos, they are the wrap-ups and the TBRs, and kind of early on I figured TBRs aren't really my thing. I do have a TBR video coming up soon, but we'll get to that when we get to that. I didn't want to just do a book tag just to do a book tag. I only did a book tag if I actually wanted to. And whenever I've done a book review video, it's because there was a lot I had to say about that book. I didn't want to just make a video just to make it. So I have kind of come to terms with that if I'm not wanting to make a video, that it's okay. I'll make do. I haven't been really caring so much about the subscriber count. It's awesome that you guys are here and watching my videos, but I'm really staying true to the reason why I wanted to make a BookTube channel, and that was to talk about books. If I am not wanting to talk about books or a specific book, I'm not going to force myself to do it. I'm not going to lie, another big struggle I've had that's made a lasting impact is like the negative comments. It's not even criticism, it's just negativity. And I think I've said this before, but I am open to criticism. I am open to being wrong. I'm completely open to having that dialogue. But if you're just gonna chew into me and be rude about it, I'm not here for that. I'm not. That's not why I'm here. That's been a struggle. And my husband, love my husband, whenever that does come up, he's like, well, that's what you're doing. You're putting yourself out there. People are going to say stuff like that. You can't let it get to you. And I know it's part of being on YouTube. I get it. It's going to happen. That doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt any less. So that's been a struggle. Thankfully, that has not happened very often. Most, I would say like 95% of whatever response I get is positive or is actual constructive criticism. So I'm always open to that. Next question is, choose one moment from the past year on BookTube that you would love to relive. I'm going to have to say the one moment I would love to relive is the morning that I woke up and I went from having 26 subscribers to 120. And it wasn't because of the subscriber count. That was just what brought my attention to it. The actual moment that I would love to relive, Leanne from Literary Diversions had mentioned me as a new booktuber that she was excited about following. So she mentioned me in her video, and that moment in and of itself, just hearing someone that I look up to, I love her videos. She's like an instant click for me whenever she uploads a video. So to see someone that I admire and that I connect with to highlight me and to recognize me and that she's watching my videos just meant the entire world to me. That was definitely a highlight in the past year. It wasn't something that there's been times where I've collaborated with people, and that's been so much fun and so awesome to be supporting other channels and to be recognized in other people's channels. People reach out to me, but for that to be something that was unexpected, it was something that I had never talked to her before. So I had no awareness that she was going to mention me or not. Just for that moment to happen was really, really special and precious to me. So I kind of cheated a little bit. I mentioned her, but question 6 is shout out a huge supporter of your channel. Obviously Leanne, but I would also say another huge supporter of my channel. There's been a few people out there, but one for sure has been Rachel from Shades of Orange. She's been a huge supporter of my channel. I love her so much. Whenever I'm close to a goal, or if there's something that she really likes or is just trying to help support me, she advocates for me out there and she mentions my name, and I just love her to death. She's amazing. So thank you, Rachel, for being awesome. If you're not following her or watching her, you definitely should, because she's got some really good reviews, and she reads some really good books. A lot of the books I pick up, it's because she's read them, or there's a lot of books on my TBR that I'm wanting to read because of her. Question number 7 is, what's the best book you've read in the past year? And now, if you remember, I had 23 books that were 5 stars. But the one book that it's left a lasting impression on my memory and is one that I want to reread over and over again, I loved it so much, was The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. I know this is a book that's had a lot of hype. I get it. I was hesitant about picking it up myself because of all the hype. I get it. But I love this book. This was my best book of the year for sure. Question 8 is, where do you see your channel in a year's time, and what do you hope to have achieved? In the past few months, I haven't really had a vision for my channel. There's been a few things that I've tried to be different and they just haven't worked out. And I don't know if that's just because they're new, so people are not as likely to watch the stuff that's new. They tend to watch the TBRs, the wrap-ups, the book hauls, or if it's just something that people genuinely were not interested in. I don't know. So I had all these ideas of what things I wanted to try, and I tried them and it didn't go anywhere. So I'm kind of in this weird limbo of what I should actually try. And then also, I think I told you guys a while back or whatever, but you know, we moved out to South Carolina and we were planning on buying a home. We were not supposed to be in this apartment for more than a couple months. And now it looks like we're going to be here probably until the end of this year. We're going to build our house. So you know, all my stuff is still in storage. Thank God I remembered to bring my stand for my phone. Otherwise, I had to buy a stand. I don't even have my stand that I normally record in. I had to buy one because this was not going to work without a stand. But a lot of my stuff is in storage, so I can't really work on my physical TBR with the exception of the books that I've hauled since I've moved in here. So it's a really good question. I don't know where I'm going to be in a year. I'm hoping I'll be in my new house. That would be awesome. I would like to keep on trying some of the things that I've tried in the past that I was excited about. I think I just need to give it another go. For goals to achieved, honestly, I don't know if this is why my channel hasn't grown, and that's fine. But I really don't have any goals for myself to have achieved. If anything, I would like to have more people to interact with that love books as much as I do. I tend to interact with more people on Twitter than I do on my own channel. But I think that's just because I'm not necessarily putting myself out there as much as other people do. I think that's the biggest thing. I think my goal would be to just interact with more people about books and the books that we're reading. There's a lot of awesome people that I've met that are also part of the BookTube community, and there's a lot of people who just love books in general that I've met on Twitter. So that's been a really awesome outlet. And the last question is tag someone whose anniversary is coming up. I don't really know whose anniversary is coming up. So if your BookTube anniversary or your BookTube birthday is coming up, please use this tag and I'll see you next year. Well, I'll see you sooner, but this tag next year. Until next time, see ya.